Hello, friends. How are you? I wanted to keep talking in an Australian accent, but I don't think I'm very good at it. I realized that I have a lot of Australian friends, and so I've been listening to a lot of Australian content, and I have this problem. Well, I don't know if it's a problem, but I have this thing that happens to me that when I am listening to a lot of content where there's another accent involved, I tend to kind of adopt the accent. I don't know if anyone else has that experience, but I know it happens to me a lot where I will just start randomly talking in that accent because I've consumed a lot of content where the person who's speaking or the people who are speaking are talking in that accent. So I found myself just starting this voiceover in an Australian accent. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep the intro, but cut out everything else because historically, the Australian accent is one of my more difficult accents to copy. I'm pretty good at copying other accents, but not so much the Australian one. I don't know, you tell me. I hope I'm not offending anyone, but see, like that's me switching into a more English accent, and then see. Let me just cut it out. Let me just stop right there. Yeah, this is not a video about accents, about me imitating accents, but fun fact, I guess. Thank you so much for being here in a new video. Essentially, it is a mixture of things that happened in the month-ish type situation. I had many different styles that I wanted to go through on this one, but I ended up making it a vlog and journaling medley put together, essentially, is my idea for this one. So we're gonna go through right now a couple of clips where I was just, filling in my journals, a few journaling sessions. You'll see that I am in my Hobonichi Weeks Health Planner, my papertess B6. I was still in the papertess B6 on the first week of February, and that's where some of these clips are coming from. So you'll see me actually set up that journal here a little bit later. I also set up, I think I do some morning pages, and well, we'll kind of get there as we get there, but that's kind of like a gist of what we're going to be seeing in this section, which is a journaling medley. As I mentioned in the intro kind of title cards, any timestamps will be pinned below in the comment section. If you are interested to kind of jumping to certain sections, we started off with kind of like vloggy material, and then now we're getting into the journaling session. So essentially moving forward, it's just going to be clips from my different journaling sessions throughout the month that didn't make it into their own independent video. And over it, I'm going to be doing this voiceover, kind of talking to you about things that happened, what I enjoyed in the month in terms of like media consumptions, and kind of like any updates that I need to share with you and things like that. Essentially, this video is meant to be for body doubling and something that you can play in the background if you want to have a companion while you do your things, while you journal or work or anything of the sort, clean your house, etc. That's what the purpose of this video is, so that you'll have a nice companion. Hopefully my voice can accompany you in those moments. Before we get into the nitty gritty, me and Sang's eternal nemesis of my life, before we get into the nitty gritty, I'm pretty sure it's that, I'll go ahead and put in our first musical break, and I will catch you on the flip side. Okay, so we're back and we are actually perfectly in sync. Coincidentally, because I cut the footage beforehand and it just so happened that we are now ready for our next talking segment. And you'll see that I am preparing my, I believe this was, yeah, I was gonna start the first week of February. So I was still in my paper test B6 here. This is the week now coming up that I'm setting up where I kind of had my journaling meltdown, if you will. Yeah, so I'm going to fill out the 28th. And then once I set up the next week, I did kind of start that week. I think I finished it. Let me look at my paper test. Hold on one second. Yeah, exactly. So I looked and I did end up filling out that whole week, but I did not use the paper test after that. And it's because I was just feeling really anxious. There was a lot of things that I was trying out. I had tried out the rings for the media journaling, and I was kind of going back and forth on using my weeks for media journaling again because I had just done the 2023 media journal flip. Um, and yeah, I was just not feeling content for a few reasons. And I did kind of talk a bit about this when I did my Traveler's Notebook setup video, which is it'll be linked up above. Actually, it was already linked because that was one of my favorite videos I made in February, and I included that little segment earlier in the video. So it was linked back there, so you could probably find it in the description. And before I keep talking about kind of where the switch up happened, I kind of just want to mention what I'm doing here. I am setting up the week, right? And something that I did that I showed in my paper test setup was that I made this little ruler for myself so that I can have a clear idea of what I needed to create the margins. So I didn't do the full margin every single time because I wanted to give myself the ability to switch it up if when I got to that page I didn't want to use the margin. So I would just kind of like mark where the margin would go with a pencil, and then once I was on that page I would create the margin itself, just to kind of give myself that flexibility. So during the weekly setup, that is part of the process that I was doing. I was just kind of marking where the margins would go and they would be ready for me once it was time for me to flip to that page, and I could just use my ruler and, mark it all the way down. Here, I think in the original footage, I was kind of talking about one of the things I was struggling with the paper test B6 was that weekly view. I didn't really know what to use it for. Originally, when I had got the paper test, I had wanted to use that in the same way that I did my media logging in the hobonichi weeks. But it ended up being that space was much smaller than what I had in the weeks, and I actually needed more space than what I had in the hobonichi weeks. So that wasn't going to work for that little section, and it's one of the things that I kind of played around with a lot while I was in the paper test B6 was, do I want an actual media log or not? I did decide after not doing it for I think 2 or 3 weeks that I did really want the media log. So I started doing that on the first page after this kind of like cover page for the week. If you don't know, the paper test is set up so that everything is contained within its month. So you have your monthly, then you have your weeklies, and then within the week, you have 7 blank daily pages before your next week starts. So everything is kind of contained in this little cluster, which I really, really enjoyed. I am still kind of using that same theme now in the traveler's notebook. The difference being that in the traveler's notebook, which is one of the reasons I really wanted to switch, I have the ability to start the week at any point, right? I don't have to contain myself to the 7 pages. I don't have to contain myself to 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages. I could use the whole dang insert for 1 week if I wanted to, if I really had that much that I wanted to talk about. And I really needed that. I really needed the space to kind of just write how much I wanted, when I wanted to, however I wanted to, while still keeping to a somewhat contained format, right? And it's another reason why I started off with the blank insert, because I noticed, especially in this week specifically that I'm doing right now, towards the latter end of the week, I wanted to be more creative with my layout, and the grids kind of made it a little difficult for me. I love gridded paper. It is my favorite type of paper, but I did really want to experiment with the blank. And something that I really like about the Traveler's Notebook and the paper or the pencil board, the pencil board that you have with Traveler's Notebook, is that the lines are dark enough where if I put it behind a page, I can see the grid very well. So if I ever do want to have the gridded lines to kind of guide me, I can do that very easily. And it is also easier for my brain to kind of just go crazy with the layout because there is no grid to contain me. So essentially, I was rebelling against containment. I was rebelling against being put into a container when I decided to move out of the paper test and actually move out of. I haven't really used much my hobonichi health planner. I was really good at it the first week of March, but I haven't touched it since. So I'm like really struggling to kind of exist within predetermined layouts. And I'm not really huge on like bullet journaling when it comes to planners themselves. I think I mentioned this in a comment on a video I watched recently by Erin Ware, where she had a similar kind of thought process where I don't mind being super creative in my journals, but when it comes to work, I do need some formatting, which is why I feel like I'm doing really well right now in my Hobonichi cousin for work. I'm really enjoying the layout that is already there. I don't really have to think about what day goes where. Um, Having the container in that setting as a planner is important to me. I don't have the time to create layouts that you would create in a bullet journal. But when it comes to journaling, when it comes to my media logging, my memory keeping, my creative output, which I do in my journals, I did feel the need to be a little looser, to have the ability to kind of expand and shrink as I needed to, because some weeks are busier and I don't need 7 pages, and some weeks are, I need to express myself a little more and I need more than 7 pages. And I wanted to be able to do that. Another thing that I was really struggling with the paper test, and I struggled specifically with it this week, is that sometimes, or not sometimes, I always want to be sticking in things in the journals. I collect a lot of screenshots and save a lot of fan art and save a lot of images that I want to put in my journals, right? And I like printing them out and pasting them in. But the Paper Test B6, while I love this journal, I really do like it. I think that it is a great, first of all, size because it's a B6, and a great merging of the Hobonichi weeks, which I love as well, and the Hobonichi cousin without the dated pages because I don't always need a date per page, as we've discussed. So I think that the Paper Test B6 is an amazing book, but I kind of wish that it was in an Avec form because I don't do well with how thick it is. I know a lot of people really love chunky books, and I like them in theory, but the fact that I was afraid to stick things in was really doing me in because I wanted to stick pictures in. I wanted to stick ephemera in, stickers. I want, maybe sometimes I want to paint in it, and I just didn't see myself being able to be that creative in this one because I was afraid that it was going to bulk up to the point where it was going to be uncomfortable for me to fill it in later on in the year. So again, rebelling against that container. And yeah, another thing is that since it is such a thick book already, right from the get go, my hand would trail off the page. And that sounds like something that shouldn't bother you, but it definitely bothered me when I was trying to write and my hand kind of like was sticking out from the edge and just kind of like hanging there. It was just uncomfortable. So, those little things kept adding up, kept adding up. And I eventually reached a point where I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. Nothing was working. And I did end up switching into the Traveler's Notebook, and I have loved every moment of it. For those of you that are following me on Instagram, you'll know that, I think I've talked about it already. I would have released a video already about the backlogging process. It's taking me a lot longer than I had originally anticipated, but I am enjoying kind of doing the transfer from the paper test into my traveler's notebook. And I'm almost to the point, I think I have maybe 2 or 3 more pages left of transferring from this week. And then it's the point where I will now start researching essentially the next phase because I haven't done any memory keeping since that last week or that first week of February. So I have to now go into my messages, into my other journals, into my notes app and see what's kind of been going on essentially from that first week of February to the second week of March and kind of make it up as I go. So that I think might be harder than the transferring, but I think I've discussed somewhere that I really, it feels like such a slog to transfer things word for word. I don't know if anyone else experienced that. Actually let me know, what kind of backlogging do you prefer? The kind of backlogging that you're making things up, like that it's new stuff that you haven't written down and you're just kind of filling in the blanks, or the type of backlogging that when you're like planner hopping, right, and you need to transfer over old information into your new systems? What kind of backlogging do you prefer? Because I think for me, I prefer the one where you're inventing it, like it's new content you're not necessarily copying over, because yeah, it's just been such a slog to transfer everything over, even though at the same time it has been fun to kind of see how the layouts translate into the TN standard, because, you know, the B6 is wider and shorter. Is it shorter? It might not be shorter. It might not be shorter, but it's definitely wider than the Traveler's Notebook insert. And so there's a difference in the layout, aside from the fact that, you know, I wasn't pasting things in on the papertess B6, and I am pasting in the Traveler's Notebook insert, which is, oh, my favorite part. I'm so excited about it. Again, if you've been following on Instagram, you know, there's a plug. It's in the description if you want to follow me on there. I have posted kind of like a more, you know, some of the spreads as they have been finished. And actually, fun fact, I'm now going to be posting more current journaling updates, because I opened a Patreon, and so I'm going to be doing that there. The Sweet Treats tier is the one where they're going to be getting, you know, real-time journaling updates and kind of like what's going on in my journals. On the YouTube channel, I'm going to be doing quarterly flip throughs, but on that Patreon level, that Patreon tier, I'm also going to be doing monthly flip throughs. So it's just a place where you can get, you know, more up to date, more content essentially. And it is a great way to, you know, support this freer content, which I will still be making. I'm still going to be making journaling videos on here. So if you can't or don't want to join me on Patreon, that's, you know, no hard feelings, obviously. That's just additional content. But if it is something that interests you, that'll be linked down below in the description. I'd love to have you there in the community. So there's my little plug for the Patreon. I'm so happy. And actually, I did want to take a moment to just shout out my first 5 patrons, which just made my, like, I actually cried. Like, like I actually cried. So shout out to Jess from over at Plan Vigila. Shout out to Kieran Baclay. Oh, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Please, you know, just like punch me if I'm pronouncing your names wrong. Natalie, Goober, Annie, and Leanne. Thank you so much for being there in the community with me. I'm so happy. You know, I didn't do a crazy launch. I kind of just did a soft launch and see if anyone was interested. And I'm just so grateful that, you know, you like me enough to want to see that extra content. So I wanted to just give a little shout out to you guys here, because I'm so grateful. And we have moved on into a morning pages session as I kept chattering along. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put in a musical break, and then we can talk about kind of like what happened in the month outside of journals, and kind of just do like a little mini media roundup and all that good stuff. So enjoy the musical break. I'll catch you on the flip side. So, anyone else experiencing bouts of sickness? I've been sick since the beginning of February. I don't think I was very sick in January. Maybe. I have terrible memory, but I was definitely sick on and off in February, and March is looking like the same thing. Which actually, if you saw my vlog, my studio vlog that I posted a couple weeks back, you'll know that I mentioned that the weather was beautiful and amazing, and spring was coming early. Played myself. The universe heard me just like I thought it would. And as I'm recording this voiceover, we are experiencing a huge snowstorm. Like, it's expected that we're going to get about 18 to 24 inches of snow in just one day. So, yay. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I love the snow until it's time for me to shovel. And also, like, it's spring, y'all. What is happening? I saw this TikTok where this guy was screaming at at the snow. It's just like, spring, fight back. And I was laughing for like 20 minutes because the accuracy of it. Anyways, here you'll see that I've moved on from my morning pages into a commonplace transfer. So one of the first things I actually did when I decided that I was going to be moving out of the papertess B6 was transfer over all of the quotes that I wanted to place in my commonplacing system, which I also touched on in that traveler notebook setup. So I'm going to be using one of my inserts, or rather one of my covers. The camel cover is going to be used for my kind of commonplacing, um, personal, kind of like intellectual growth. I had called it something in that video, but I can't remember right now what it was. It might come to me later on, but essentially that's what I'm doing here. I am transferring over quotes. And in an effort to make this video longer, to make it a valuable body doubling session, I'm actually not going to cut this session at all. Some of the earlier sessions I did cut through just to make sure that it was interesting, but I wanted to make this video upwards of like 45 minutes ish or around that, so that it would be a good body doubling video, because I know that for me, I really enjoy when videos are 40-50 minutes or so, because I watch a lot of these during my working hours when I'm doing client work, and it's just nice to not have to think about finding another video for an hour. So I figured that I would do that and also kind of give you an idea of a real-time journaling session. For me, journaling sessions tend to last me between 45 minutes to an hour, like in a normal, not copying over. Some of the backlogging sessions that I was doing for the TN took me about 2 hours, and it's because again, it's a slog having to copy things word for word. But when I am just doing a regular journaling session, they'll usually be 45 to an hour long. So there's quite a lot of content that I cut down just to make sure that it's not boring for you guys. Do let me know if you prefer seeing real-time content or if you rather it be kind of cut down, because I do a lot of back and forth, especially when it's time for picking stickers. Oh my goodness, I'll go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and I'm like, how much of that can you guys take? So yeah, I figured that in order to make sure that this video it's nice 40-45 minutes, that I was going to give you this common placing transfer in its entirety, no cuts, no speed up. It is about a 20-ish minute session, and it'll get us to that time limit that I wanted for this video. I don't think I've asked, but how are you guys? How was your February, seeing as this is a February wrap-up video, but also how has your March been? Because I'm essentially posting this video a month late. Uh, I wanted to post this a lot earlier, but again, I was going back and forth quite a lot on what I wanted it to be. But this month, I've really been focusing on opening the Patreon and also finishing my website, which I think by the time this video goes live, my website will be live as well, which is honestly so exciting because I have been trying to finish this website for about 3 months or so, and it is not 100% what I want it to be. I still have to do a branded photo shoot, but winter is not the time. So I decided that I was just gonna get it good enough for launch, and we'll work on getting it perfect later. Start before you're ready is my mantra for this year. And so, yeah, I think it'll be live. And if it is live, that means that I'll have a blog post for it, and that will be linked down below. So, lots of moves being made in March, but this is a February wrap up. So, what was I saying? I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, why this video so late? Yeah, I was just focusing on the website, and I couldn't decide what I wanted this video to be. So, ultimately, it ended up being a combination journaling medley. Essentially, it's more of a journaling medley to begin with. I just included more vlogish style content at the start of it, which I might do moving forward. I haven't 100% decided. Do let me know if you like this formatting where it is essentially a vlog and journaling medley put together. I really enjoy making the journaling medleys because, again, if I didn't do them, all of this footage would kind of die and have nowhere to go. And I don't want that to be the case. So, yeah, I figured I'd kind of talk you through what I'm commonplacing because I always like seeing other people's quotes and all that good stuff. So, I think I'll do that. But actually, before I do that, rapid fire media wrap up for February. I was watching Adventure Time. I do think I finished Adventure Time in February. Yes, I did. I finished Adventure Time in February. I watched Fiona and Cake in February, finished that. I also watched Distant Lands, which is another spin-off of Adventure Time. So all of those things I watched in February. Let's see. I started watching One Piece again in February. I had stopped watching that a couple years ago, and my best friend, she had started watching One Piece, and I got major FOMO, so I went ahead and started that after I finished with Adventure Time. And then for reading, I was reading Who Was Wellness For by Fariha Roisin. And let's see, for movies, I think I watched Thanksgiving because they put that on Letter. Oh my goodness, they put that on Netflix, and that was a fun time. Gotta tell you, I love slasher movies. If you know about me, slasher movies are some of my favorite horror style movies. So I love that. And let's see, what else did I watch in February? Oh, I watched the first Purge and the Purge Election Year, which were the only two Purge movies that I hadn't watched yet. So I watched that in February, and I watched Falling for Figaro, which is like an opera based movie, which was a fun time. It was like not the most amazing movie ever, but I love Danielle McDonald, and I will watch anything that she's in. I love fat girl representation, so I will watch anything of hers, and I did. It was a fun time. It was cute. We need to bring back the mediocre rom-coms. They are amazing and healing. So that was kind of like what was going on in terms of media that at least I can remember, because again, I haven't finished backlogging, and so all that information is all over the place. So that was the media log, or the rapid fire media wrap up for the month. Still lacking on reading. Like, I am in such a reading slump. It's horrible, but I'm trying to get out of it. In March, we'll see if I'm successful with 1 week left in the month. I doubt it. Maybe April will be my month for reading. We'll see. So now, talking about these quotes, let me get my commonplacing journal so I can read them to you. So first quote you're seeing me right on here is a quote from a Substack article that I read, titled Wonder and Dare I Say Love. I might have talked about this in another video. I'm not sure. It's by Renee Eli, PhD. It's on Substack. I read a lot of articles on Substack. If you like writing, if you like creative writing and like newsletters, definitely check out the Substack platform. I also write in there. I also write on Substack. And I think in February I did manage to send out a newsletter. I'm not sure. I'll check after I finish reading you this quote, and talk about it if I did end up sending anything. If not, then that'll be for March, because I definitely have sent Substack letters out in March. But here's the quote. It's two quotes from that article that I really, really liked. The tags that I put on this quote was existentialism, on wonder, and on love. So that's kind of like what it's about. I'll read you the quote, and then I'll read you what I wrote about it. So we start off, with the sound comes listening to the sound and the sudden awareness that it is me listening. The awareness opening a wondering gap and a recognition that soon slips in. This shuffle is finitude. Someday, this sound from these feet will no longer be, and on that someday, the world as seen through just these eyes will no longer be. So good. And then the next quote from that one is, "You did not think to breathe. In breath came without thought. We could say it came by the affinity for being through the whole of your body. Something within desires to be. That something, that affinity for being, is life's love of itself, wishing you into another breath and another after that. Is this not the stuff of wonder?" I really love Renee and her ability, like her prose just gets me. And I actually have a lot of quote of hers in my commonplace. I still have to do the transfer of the quotes from my 2023 media journal into this now new commonplacing system because I want to have them with me. And I know that there's a lot of her stuff in there. Anyways, this is what I wrote on it. There's something that shakes inside the core of my being when I read Renee's words and errands on Substack. What do you mean? This shuffle is finitude. And with the sound comes listening to the sound. Like, I'm going crazy. Looking at all these quotes I've compiled this year, a lot revolve around existence, which isn't new, but just reminds me of I'm glad I exist. Yeah, I love that. I've been thinking a lot about that a lot lately as someone who struggled with, not wanting to live for many years. I'm at a place now, the last couple of years since I did therapy, since I've been on medication, since I've moved, where I'm very happy. You know, obviously the world is on fire and there's a sense of guilt that comes with being happy with your life, but I think I get to say that I'm at a place where I'm glad I exist, right? While still acknowledging that the world as we know it is a really scary place for a lot of people right now. And yeah, I don't want to get deeper than that on this video, but the next quote that I wrote was from Bird by Bird, which to no one's surprise, I still haven't finished. Oh Lord, I am slogging through that. And honestly, maybe that book is what's got me in a reading slump. I think it's a really good book, but I'm not vibing with the author's humor. And even though there are quotes that I really, really like, I don't know, man. I'm slogging through. This quote is from that book. So, it has good quotes. I've written them in my commonplace. And this one was really one of those things where it was really eye opening to me. It's one of the things that happens when you give yourself permission to start writing is you start thinking like a writer. That's the full quote. But for me, the when you give yourself permission to start writing is what really cracked my skull open. And I'll read you what I wrote about it. Essentially, this is a beginnings of a newsletter that I'm going to write eventually. And that's why there's a little bit more content on it. So, anyways, here's what I wrote. And it's funny because I'm like reading this in my head and it's essentially what I've already said. I wrote, "So I was reading Bird by Bird and I came across this quote. Now, admittedly, I haven't been having the best of times with this book because I just don't think I jive much with the author's humor. But I'm pushing through because admittedly there are some nuggets of wisdom sprinkled throughout. Anyways, I read that quote and I'm sure I blinked out after reading when you give yourself permission to start writing. And I just started playing those words on a loop over and over. Each time they resonated more. And so the words connected dots in my history and painted the full picture of my relationship with writing. And I have an epiphany. I've never given myself permission to write. But for me, it wasn't so much about the act of writing. It was more about being perceived, about sharing my art, my words with other people. And yeah, I think I need to explore that a little more probably." So there's my little contemplatio on it, which if you don't know, if you haven't watched any of Dosie's videos or Park Notes videos, contemplatio is just essentially the Latin word for contemplation. So it's your reaction to the text that you're copying within your commonplace. So it's essentially just my notes, my reaction to the quote, right? Just written down. And yeah, it just brought up a lot of these realizations that for me, it's not that I've never given myself permission to write so much as that I've never given myself permission to show others my writing than a very select few. And so I think I touched on this in my newest newsletter that I sent out in March that was about perfectionism and how one of the musings I wrote was something along the lines of, do I keep talking if I don't have an audience? Will anyone hear me? Or is it, what is it that I wrote? Hold on, let me look. Okay, yeah, so here's the musings I wrote, and I'll link the Substack article below in case you want to read the whole thing. But essentially, I wrote, I'm both someone who loves to talk and struggles to find the words to say. What do you do when you have a lot of opinions but lack an audience? Do you stop talking just because no one's there to hear it? The proverbial question about the falling tree, I guess. And yeah, it just brings a lot of stuff up. I do think that I'm going to end up writing a newsletter or a blog post on this specific quote, because I do think that there's a lot that I need to unpack there that I think, yeah, that I can write an article on. And yeah, I think I end up writing the next quote as well. Technically, these are quotes that I compiled in January, so should they even be on here? But I did, again, I wanted to make this video 40 minutes, so I'll talk about the next quotes a little more in detail in my next common placing video, because I am going to make a dedicated common placing kind of like backlog video as I go in and transfer over old quotes into this new system, because again, I want them to be all together. The next quote I did write about that you're going to see me in a bit as I finalize the video is from Adventure Time. I do actually have a few quotes from Adventure Time in here. I was really obsessed with the DJ song End of Beginning in February. Like obsessed with that song. I wave goodbye to the end of beginning. When I'm back in Chicago, I feel it. Another version of me. I was in it. I feel that in my bones whenever I go back to South Florida. It's like I feel the version of me I was in it whenever I go down there. So I felt that in my bones, and I kept that song on repeat over and over again. But yeah, I do have 2 quotes so far from Adventure Time in this common placing book. One that I did in the beginning of January, and one that I will be writing in later. I hope that you enjoyed this one, this little kind of like wrap up where I showed you kind of like 2 things that I did in the month: a regular day that is essentially my everyday of working from home, and I did go thrift shopping in the halfway through the month, and I did get some clips of that, so I included that in the beginning. I showed you my 2 favorite videos that I posted in the month, which were my traveler's notebook setup and my media journal tour for 2023. I did do an impromptu haul. In March, I am doing a low buy, so I don't have any new purchases. I don't think that'll have any haul sections in the March wrap up if I do a video similar to that. I'm not sure I'll do a March wrap up because I'm thinking of doing a quarterly review as a journaling update, a massive journaling update of how things have gone in the past couple of months, and in comparison to how I thought it was gonna go in my 2024 Tojokaigi. So that'll probably be the video instead of a March wrap up. But I did include that Adventure Time comic book. I think it's Sugary Shorts, something like that is what they're called. I'm planning on collecting them in the future, but for now, since I'm doing that no buy, I just have the one. And yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed the video so far. I will go ahead and leave you as I finish writing down my thoughts on that bird by bird quote, and then I'll write in that Adventure Time quote as we say goodbye with a musical break. Thank you so much for being here. As always, I will catch you in the next one. Bye.